Security guards rushed across the gleaming hotel lobby, their radios crackling as they surrounded a well-dressed black man standing calmly near the reception desk, accusing him of stealing. In the grand lobby of a towering corporate building, polished marble floors reflected the nervous steps of a shy, young black intern. He had only been there a week, invisible among executives in suits who rarely spared him a glance. But on one ordinary morning, something extraordinary happened. A deaf guest arrived, struggling to communicate at the reception desk. While others ignored the scene, the intern quietly stepped forward. He lifted his hands and signed a simple hello. He didn't know it yet, but someone powerful was watching from behind. And what happened next would change everything. The intern's name was Marcus. Fresh out of college, he carried the weight of his family's hopes on his shoulders. Being the only black intern in a prestigious firm wasn't easy. He felt it every day, in the way coworkers glanced past him in meetings, in the silence when his ideas were brushed aside, and in the jokes whispered just softly enough that he couldn't confront them. Marcus was quiet by nature, shy to speak up, and careful never to cause disruption. He spent most of his days tucked in a corner cubicle, handling spreadsheets, forgotten until someone needed coffee runs or late-night paperwork. Yet, beneath the timid exterior, he held an unusual gift. Years earlier, Marcus had volunteered at a community center where he learned sign language to connect with deaf children. On this particular morning, the office buzzed with tension. The CEO was rumored to be visiting the lobby, and staff were on edge. But while everyone fussed over appearances, a moment unfolded at the reception desk. A deaf guest stood, trying to communicate. Words on her lips fell silent, gestures misunderstood. The receptionist, impatient, simply repeated herself louder, as if volume could break through silence. People walked by, shaking their heads, too busy or unwilling to help. Marcus noticed. His heart pounded. Should he step in? He was only an intern. What if it drew unwanted attention? He hesitated, but then something stronger pushed him forward. And in that fragile instant, he lifted his hands. Marcus slowly approached the guest. With shaky but determined movements, he signed the word hello. The guest's face lit up instantly. Relief washed over her, and in that smile, Marcus felt a weight lift from his own chest. What had seemed like a risky step now felt like the most natural thing in the world. The two began signing back and forth. The guest explained she was here for a critical investor meeting, but had arrived early. She needed help finding the right floor. Marcus guided her patiently, using both signs and simple notes on paper to make sure she felt understood. But as he signed, he felt the heavy stares of others in the lobby. Some rolled their eyes, whispering. To them, it seemed like a performance. A few staffers smirked, the intern showing off. Others didn't care at all, yet Marcus stayed focused on the guest, determined to make her feel respected in a place that had already failed her. Upstairs, executives prepared for the investor meeting, unaware of what was unfolding below. In the hierarchy of this firm, an intern's actions rarely mattered. But this time they did. Because standing just a few steps behind, silent and unnoticed, was the CEO himself. The man had entered through a side door, avoiding the fuss of his arrival, and paused at the edge of the lobby. His sharp eyes observed everything. The guest struggling, the staff ignoring her, the receptionist's impatience, and finally, the lone intern bridging the gap with kindness no one else offered. Marcus had no idea. He only knew that in this small exchange, he had honored the humanity of a stranger. Yet soon, the moment would ripple far beyond what he imagined. The guest was escorted upstairs, comforted by Marcus's help. She walked into the conference room, The investor meeting everyone had been anxiously preparing for. Chairs shifted, voices lowered, and then silence fell as she revealed who she was. Not just a guest, but one of the company's most important potential partners. The executives scrambled to accommodate her, but something in her demeanor had already shifted. She had arrived feeling dismissed and unheard by the staff. The receptionist's indifference, the passerby's apathy, it had left a mark. Yet she also carried the memory of one young intern who chose differently. The CEO entered the room. Calm, authoritative, he began the meeting, but before diving into numbers, he turned to his staff and said something that froze the air. "I came in through the lobby today. I saw how we treated a guest who needed us." Faces dropped. People glanced nervously, wondering what he would reveal. The CEO's gaze scanned the room, sharp and unflinching. He described the scene, the neglect, the impatience, the silence of those who chose not to help. Then he paused. "And yet, I saw one act of humanity. Not from the staff I pay 6 figures, but from the quietest person in this building, an intern." Gasps rippled across the room. Executives shifted uncomfortably, while Marcus, still downstairs, remained oblivious to the storm he had stirred. For the CEO, it was more than an anecdote. It was a mirror, a revelation of what his company truly valued or failed to value. And in that moment, the hierarchy flipped upside down. Later that afternoon, Marcus was called upstairs. His hands trembled as he rode the elevator, convinced he had overstepped. He expected reprimand, maybe even termination. But instead, when he entered the boardroom, silence fell. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. At the head of the table, the CEO rose. He didn't speak of profits, mergers, or quarterly goals. Instead, he spoke of empathy, integrity, and what it meant to truly represent the company. He pointed to Marcus as the embodiment of those values. The deaf guest smiled warmly at him. "That intern she signed to her interpreter reminded me why I would trust this company." In a single day, Marcus's shy act had shifted the perception of an entire room of leaders. He didn't gain recognition because of ambition, arrogance, or a strategic move, but because of humanity. Weeks later, Marcus's story spread quietly through the building. Some mocked him still, jealous of his recognition, but others began to reflect. The receptionist, once dismissive, started attending sensitivity workshops. A few executives learned basic sign language, realizing they had overlooked a vital skill. And the CEO, a man not easily moved, initiated a new policy: that kindness and inclusion were not optional, but essential. Marcus didn't become a hero overnight. He remained humble, still shy, still working in his small cubicle, but he carried a quiet confidence now, knowing that in a world where so many look away, choosing to see and act can change everything. And so the question lingers, not just for the firm, but for all of us watching. When the moment comes, will we be the ones who turn away, or the ones who step forward, even in silence, and say hello?